Have you ever wondered how a bicycle goes from an idea to something that you can buy in your local bike shop? It's a really fascinating process, but it's not very often that you can follow that process from beginning to end all in one place. But today, that is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm in Belgium, a country famous for its waffles, chocolate and beer. And it's also Europe's cycling capital, having produced some of the world's finest bike riders. But today, I'm not here to eat waffles and chocolate. I'm going to spend the day at the Ridley Bike Factory. I'm super excited for this. I do hope there's some Belgian beer though. I might even take some back to GCN Mega Base for Dan. Treat him, little present. Now you might be familiar with Ridley Bikes. They are the bikes used by the World Tour team Lotto Destiny, and Victor Campenaerts actually rode a Ridley bike to break the world hour record back in 2019.
Ridley was started in 1997 by Joachim Ertz, an inspiring professional cyclist. And whilst training to become a pro, Joachim taught himself frame building and custom painting, and built a small company building and painting bikes for local brands. After a few years, he decided it was time to produce bikes under his own brand, Ridley. Over the last 20 years, he's grown the company from producing around 2,000 bikes in the first couple of years to producing nearly 60,000 bikes this year.
Before I go and take a look around the factory, I've come to the showroom here to have a look at some of the beautiful bikes, and I'm going to have a quick chat to the founder and CEO of the company to see where it all started. Starting a bike brand, how do you choose a name for a bike brand?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm a big fan of Ridley Scott, the very famous actor, and Blade Runner was one of these famous movies. And I saw one of the movies, and yeah, it was a good combination to bring. Scott was already a very famous competition bike brand, and then the name Ridley popped up as inspiration from Ridley Scott. We live in the center of cycling. Belgium, Flanders. Yeah, we really care about details. We really care about how we develop a frame. Our first slogan was "Form follows function," and then yeah, you design a product for the consumer, and we create products for the future, more safer, more green, produced in Europe. A very important difference between Ridley and the other brands is, from day one, it was I sell a bike, we create a color, a size and a spec fitting for the consumer. And the factory here in Belgium is purely designed and engineered to do that, and do that 50 times an hour. We create your bike.
But today I'm here to find out how this very bike, the Ridley Griffin, is made from start to finish. Let's go find out. So today Ridley have been kind enough to let me design and configure my very own bike that I'm going to do on their website now, and then we're going to head over to the factory and watch it being made. So it's going to be a really cool process. But first of all, I'm going to design my bike. I might go with sparkly purple. That's very similar to the frame that I spray painted as well, so this is definitely going to be a little bit better. So sparkly purple it is. Going to definitely go for glossy because that definitely brings the sparkle out. Then it's time to pick what components I want. I'll go for Shimano Di2 today, I think. Next is the wheels. It has to be carbon. The Forza carbon wheels. Very nice. Of course, tan sidewalls. Can't not be. And then saddle. Salitalia Superflow saddle. There is something really special about configuring and designing your own bike, just adding that bit of personalisation to your bike. But I'm pretty pleased with how that's come out. But now it's time to head over to the factory and see this bad boy being made up.
Some of Ridley's frames are made in the EU, and some, like this one, are moulded in Taiwan, but they are all designed, painted and assembled here in Belgium.
So the very first step of the bike building process is starting with the bare frame. So this has been delivered to the factory, nothing on it whatsoever at the moment, but the first step is to put a prime coat on it and to put little stickers on little holes like these, and then it's going to get sanded. So the prime coat is to make sure that there's a really smooth surface for the first layer of paint. So after the primer is put on, it's come here to get sanded, to get all those kind of little bumps off, to make sure the frame is perfectly smooth then for the first coat of painting. But yeah, it's all done by hand here, all the sanding. And that's my frame there, being sanded. So once it's done, we'll go and see the next step. So, Bert, you are the project manager here at Ridley, but what is the very first step when it comes to designing a bike? I guess it's a lot of brainstorming and ideas.
Yes, exactly. First of all, it's the decision that we have to make, or we need a new bike or to add a new bike to the range, because we see that maybe there's an evolution in the market, there's a trend in the market, and we see that maybe our portfolio is not ready for it, or maybe we see some new opportunities to create a new model in our portfolio.
Okay, so the next part of the process is for the frame to be painted. So I've got my bike on the trolley here. Here is my design that I made a little bit earlier. And now we're going to take the frame into the painters to be painted. Let's go. Right, the next step for my bike is to have a base coat. So we're in the painting room here. So I'm going to hand my bike over to have a base coat done, and then it's going to be put in the oven for 1 hour at 55 degrees. And hopefully I'll come out looking perfect. So time for the base coat. Thank you very much.
First thing you start defining is geometry, because geometry is key for the bike. I mean, the geometry determines how the bike handles in real life on the road. Also there you make differences, because different bikes, different terrains need different geometry. So you start making a geometry, and then basically we have some product designers that start making the look and feel of the bike. So they start making like a 2D drawing with some tube sections and how the bike will look. And starting from that point, we go to the combination of the geometry and then the look and feel. You get basically to something like this, which is a 2D drawing that combines the geometry and also the look and feel of the bike. So this is like a first technical drawing. And then once we have finalized this 2D drawing, we start working on what we call a 3D model. So then we will make the bike in 3D. And once we're confident that the bike looks how it should look, with all the features in there, we will always print this 3D model in real life. Because even if you watch your 3D model multiple times on a computer screen, in the end, when you have the frame at real size and you can walk around it and really look at it and touch it and see how the dimensions and the proportions of the frame are, sometimes we still need to change a little bit on some tube shapes, for example.
So the painting process of the bike is actually quite quick, but what takes a long time is the drying process. That's why they have this room, and it's actually an oven. It doesn't look like much, but it's quite hot in there. It's 55 degrees and my bike is in there drying for an hour now. And between every single layer of paint, the bike goes in there to dry, and that's what probably takes the longest part of this process. Once my frame is done drying in the oven with the base coat on, it's then brought back out here to this section where they put the decals and all the stickers on the bike. And what really surprises me about this, they put it all on by eye, and they get them perfect each time. They haven't got any lasers or measurements to get them in the right place. It's all done just by eye. So this is my frame here, and I know if I was in charge of this job, I would definitely get it wrong. They would be all over the place. I haven't got the hand or the eye for this. They get them perfect each time. So my frame has all the decals and stickers on now. It's back into the painting chamber where we're going to mix that sparkly purple paint and get the first layer of paint on. Let's go do it. So this is one of the 3D models that you've had printed up of the Griffin. Was this the first 3D model that you had of the bike?
This was the first 3D model that we had, yes, indeed. And you can still see, for example, all the tape that you see here on the down tube and the C tube with the little lines on. For example, we use these to determine the place of the bottle cage mounts. So we did different tests with some frame bags that we had in here, so we could position the bottle cage in combination with a big bottle, and then position the bottle cage and the combination, of course, of the one on the down tube and the C tube to find the perfect position.
So it's in this room here where you've got loads of different paints, and he's actually mixing up my paint there that's going to go on my bike, but this is a really cool process to watch. Watch him all mixing it by hand and creating this sparkly purple colour, but there are a lot of different colours to choose from in here. So now I'm going to hand my bike over to get that lovely paint on it. So each bike a model, how do you choose the names for the models of the bikes?
There was a period that when I was just a father, my firstborn son Noah, I think everybody knows the Noah by now. Then we developed a state-of-the-art time trial bike, Dean, my second son, and we started to create a women-specific range with Liz. So my three oldest children were a good inspiration for new bikes.
So I've been watching the frame painters in here, and it is so fascinating to watch because they make it look so easy, and it's almost like second nature the way they do it. It's quite elegant and nice to watch actually, and I know how hard spray painting a bike is and how perfect you have to get it so there's no like drips or any bubbles on the bike or anything like that. So it's amazing to watch, but they actually paint between 4 of them 100 bikes a day, which is a crazy amount. But I guess when you're painting that many bikes, it's going to become second nature to you. But my bike has just had the colour put on, but it's actually going to head back in the oven to do some cooking now, or well, drying, before it gets the top coat put on. So once the paint is done drying on the bike and it's done cooking in the oven, it is brought to another chamber, and this is where the top coat and the finish kind of layer goes on the bike. But they actually try and have this room kind of eliminated of dust so nothing sticks to the bike and gets on top of the paint. And they actually have 2 doors in between this chamber, and no 2 doors can be open at the same time for any little dust particles to get in.
Over here we can see the lacquer, the top coat being put on the bike, but after that it's back into the oven for it to dry one final time.
So here is my bike all dried. Looks absolutely perfect to me, but the next step is quality control, where I'm going to hand it over and it is going to have a very thorough inspection with some very good eyes to see if there are any, little details that aren't quite up to their standards that need to be fixed. So I'll hand it over. Basically going to take a magnifying glass and check if there's any little imperfections in the frame, and if there might have got a little bit of dust underneath the paint, and if there is, it needs to be corrected before it goes out to the consumers. So thankfully my frame passed quality control, but there is this frame over here that has tiniest little bit of dirt which I can barely see with my eyes, but that is something that he picks up and he's going to fix right now. Okay, the next step of the process is that my bike gets this little barcode and number. So I am X70, and then it has the Griffin, Ultegra Di2, Radiant, Extra Small, and it comes here where basically this big robot picks out all the components. They come out of this shelf and then they get put all into a box like this, and my little barcode will be on the front of this box and it'll pick all the components that are going to go on my bike. So I've got my box X70 and it matches the number on the front, and it's got all my components in there. So I've got my crank, my chainring, the saddle that I chose, handlebar tape, pretty much everything to make a bike. So this box now is going to go and follow the rest of the bike being made. So we've got the cockpit and the wheels to go and see being made. Let's go do it. So here is my cockpit being made. The hoods are put on, the shifters put on, all the cables being routed, all by hand, which is very cool to see. The whole process of the bike is finally starting to come together to look like a fully functioning bike. Thank you very much. Thank you. So this is where the wheels are being assembled. They're putting the cassette on, the disc rotors, the tyres, and I mean, they are so speedy, like literally putting the tyre and tube in now in about half the time I would. I'll be there for like 10 minutes trying to do that, and he's doing it literally in minutes. Very speedy work. So bike has now been brought into the assembly line, and this is essentially where the bike is assembled, and it's put on this conveyor belt system. The frame is put on with the box with all the components and the wheels, and basically each person has a different job of building the bike. One person might put the handlebars on, the other person might do the handlebar tape, and each step someone would be doing something different, and then the bike basically moves around the conveyor belt. Just like that, my custom bike that I designed this morning is now ready for its first ride. And I have been lucky enough to be able to go out on a little spin for this. It's going to be a little bit cheeky and have that new bike feeling for the next hour, even though I have to give the bike back at the end. But I'm going to pretend for the next hour. But how beautiful is this paint in the sunlight? I think getting out of the factory and seeing it in the proper sunlight, it just pops. And I am in love. There is no other way to end this ride than with a Belgian beer in a Belgian bar that's actually called Handlebar. Get it? Handlebars? Handlebar? Anyway, it has been a super fascinating day today at the Ridley factory, seeing, the very start of the bike building process where all the ideas are kind of thrown around, thinking about what design bike they're going to make, seeing like the 2D models, the 3D models, and then heading over to the factory and seeing the frame being painted up. That's probably my favourite part of today. And then, the cherry on the cake was actually getting to ride the bike today and seeing that go from a bare frame this morning to a fully functioning bike this afternoon was just amazing. And then to finish at a bar with a Belgian beer, it can't get any better. But a big thank you to Ridley for having me over at the factory today and showing me what this is all about. But now, please leave me to enjoy my Belgian beer in peace. I was going to bring some beer back for Dan, but I think I'll enjoy this tomorrow.